JJJinks!
Truck stop!
This is JJJinks with an end of the year 2025 kind of a wrap-up-ish video. There's a whole bunch of knives that I've just never have a chance to talk about. Some of them have been on screen, some of them have not. Some of them I may have even said, I'm gonna come back and review this and let you know what I think about this knife after carrying and using it for a while. And then I don't get back around to it. So I have a whole bunch of knives that we're just gonna go through all of them right now. We're gonna start with a failed challenge. Believe it or not, up until earlier this year, I have never actually purchased anything from Cutlery Corner Network. Yes, the Frost Cutlery owned knife show on TV, that funny one. And I was just kind of browsing around their site randomly, and they had advertisements for seasonal mystery knives and like holidays and stuff that normally don't get knives. Like one of them I think was Thanksgiving. I think one was Halloween. Anyway, I ordered a few. One of them came in a 3-pack, a 2-pack, and a single. I was immediately disappointed because they were advertised like they came with boxes that looked like the holiday theme that it sort of represented. But this is what I got. And I went from enthused to let down pretty much right away when I saw the boxes, for a few reasons. Number one, it was actually kind of a pain for me to get these. Not Cutlery Corner's fault. What ended up happening was, rather than go through the process of entering my credit card information and all that stuff, I saw PayPal was an option. I almost never use PayPal, really, but this time I did. What I didn't realize was that it ended up shipping everything to the address linked to my PayPal account, which I had not updated in too long. So these got sent to where I used to live. And I felt really, really bad because, like, first of all, it's not the first time that's happened. And I think the guy was kind of irritated. He told me, like, change your address, please. Like, I don't want to see you anymore. Like, stop doing this. So anyway, I got these, and then I did change my info on my PayPal. And so it was already off to a little bit of a rocky start. And yeah, basically what I'm seeing is, okay, this knife and this knife are probably the same. These two and these two, they're probably all the same. This was not a, like, Thanksgiving, Halloween, whatever. This was just, like, random knives they had around, and they just sold them that way to me. My plan was I would open one at a time, carry it for, like, a couple of weeks, review it, and then go on to the next one. So the sales, the wind was gone from those sales. I didn't bother videoing me opening this one. I was just like, screw it. I'll just start carrying it. And then when I do the first video, I can do the review and then move on. None of that happened. So I'm just going to go through these. I haven't opened these yet, but this one I did. Now this is obviously Hen and Rooster, which I've heard is one of the better brands that Frost Cutlery offers. It's kind of held to the same standard as, like, Steel Warrior, maybe even more than that. And I know that historically, Hen and Rooster is an older company. Frost Cutlery likes to buy other companies, move all the production overseas. That they've been doing that for quite a while. And what I got for this one, which might have been the Thanksgiving knife, doesn't matter anymore. First of all, kind of like with Steel Warrior, you do get the wax paper that has the logo on it. So that's a thing. And here's the knife. And I got it out of the box, and I paid so much money for these. I might have to dig up the receipt or something. I want to say it was like $20 for the single, and on average, I want to say it was probably like $15 a piece. I was expecting more out of the box. This thing looks tiny and frail and odd. It's got an interesting like bend to it on the bottom there. And the scales just get really, really narrow at this end, to the point where the bolster, it almost looks like a forced perspective kind of thing. The bolster just looks really tiny and far away. There's a massive, massive gap right there. I mean, you can see right through that. It's pretty bad. But I guess it's just the pin. It's interesting because there is a pin right there at the end, you see? But you can look through, the pin doesn't go through. So I kind of don't know what's going on. This pin has to be going through because that keeps the springs in place. But I'm kind of wondering, are these just fake pins or something? There is a little bit of a difference between them too. The spring pin is raised a little bit, and the other ones are kind of buffed flush. So I don't know. Cheaply made, I guess. The jigging is also not my favorite. They're just like large scoops. The color is also not great. I'd like blue, but it's so dark in the center. It's almost just black. Anyway, a lot. Just out of the box, I was like, oh, God, this is bad. Little teeny tiny shield with a hen and rooster logo. Let me show you the blades. There are 4 of them, and this is where things start to get a little interesting. So we got a nice teeny little sheep's foot blade on one end, and also on that same end, you get a little teeny tiny kind of a penknife deal. And one of the kind of interesting things about this knife is that both of the little blades are on one end, and then the larger are on the other end. And you can see that in order to make space for 4 blades in this tiny little thing, they really had to squish these 2 big ones together. You can see they're like touching in there. And then when you open them, they also touch when they're open. So that's just what it had to do to cram it all in there. And the large blades you get a drop point knife, and then a sheep's foot, or I guess maybe that I get my sheep's foots and my Warncliffes kind of mixed up. It's one of those. So I actually carried and used this for a good couple of months. It's long, but it does fit in the 5th pocket okay. Here's the surprising part. I actually liked this knife in the end. In spite of the weird phantom pin thing, the quality's not that bad. If you look at some of the details, first of all, it's nicely polished. That is case quality polishing. Not like the best case quality, but, kind of a cheap case quality, if that makes sense. Also, one of the other annoyances is that one of the scales is not flushed with the liners. You can kind of see it on this end, I think. It's maybe not. You can kind of see, I'm holding it straight, and you can see the brass there. So basically, it's like they shaved a little bit too much of the bone here, and I'm like, you could have just started over. But a couple of the nice things about it are, for being so tiny, there is 0 play in any of the blades. One of the things I thought was a bit odd was just how far the liners stick out from the springs like that. But now I understand why. That gives it strength, I guess. It prevents play and kind of keeps it locked in a little bit better. I've had a lot of knives that started with no play, and then they developed lots of play, and then printed on the main kind of the larger drop point blade is the Hen and Rooster logo with a phrase or something. So my impression after carrying this knife and playing with it and stuff was, you know what, Hen and Rooster's actually not too terrible in the quality, but the fit and finish is pretty bad. Kind of a strange dichotomy there. So I guess I'm going to start opening them now. Might as well open the other little green Hen and Rooster box in the 3-pack, because I'm guessing it's the same knife. Actually, you know what? I never actually looked at the item numbers, and one of them is different, so that bodes well. I wonder if that's the story with these. You know, they appear to be different, so maybe this would have been a good thing. All right, let's see what we got in here. Another. Oh, yep. Another Hen and Rooster. It's the exact same knife, but red. I actually like the way this one looks a little better. It's still a little bit too dark, in my opinion, but they've lightened it up a little bit more around the perimeter of the jigging, which they only did on the extreme ends for the blue one. It looks like on this one, we don't have that scale spacer mismatch going on, so that's nice. It is also well polished. Other than that, I'm expecting it's just the exact same knife. Yeah, there's no play so far. I'm going to check each one. That one's got a little bit. Sometimes there's just like a tiny bit of blade play, and it's hardly worth mentioning. And that's it. Yeah, the other ones have 0 blade play. So now I have another one, but red. Okay, so I don't know what the knife is called. I'm assuming it's a whittler type, or a whittler to some, because that's usually the case when you've got 2 little blades on one side, on the tapered end of the knife. You know, that's my best guess. A Hen and Rooster mini whittler. Now, as far as all the other qualities, like, well, I mean, is the steel good? Does it cut all right? It's basically like, you could consider it 440 steel, maybe decently heat treated. Cuts just fine, dulls just fine, and sharpens just fine. And the next disappointment is that, as far as I know, Elite Edge, I don't think it's a Frost Cutlery brand. I know Hen and Rooster is. I paid for Frost Cutlery stuff. I would like Frost Cutlery knives, you know what I mean? But it's Frost Cutlery. You're going to be disappointed in some way. So I guess in that sense, it's fine. Not going to spend a lot of time on these 4. I'm just going to kind of bust them out and show you what they look like and move on. Okay. So those 2 came together. These 2 came with one of the whittlers. Okay. Gas station quality for sure. I am the authority on that subject. Oh, that is open assisted, and it almost got me. Okay, well, it's a fake carbon fiber patterned open assisted knife with tactical accoutrements. Got the seatbelt cutter and the glass breaker. Deep ride pocket clip, tip down only. Modified clip point blade. Very, very flimsy. No blade play, though. And it's got that open assistance with decently good centering. But I am glad that I did not follow through and do the thing where I'd carry each one of these for a couple of weeks until I ran out. It would have gotten old fast, I know myself. This one's a little more artistic. Definitely something you'd see at a flea market. You have what looks like a very uncomfortable gear-type looking lanyard hole. It's built into the liners, which have that, what is it, titanium nitride or whatever, anodization. Strange back thing with a cutout. It looks very uncomfortable, that jimping. Very pronounced flipper handle, flipper tab. I like that. That is not comfortable to open. And the blade's just, yeah, that kind of a harpoonish look. It's a rather big knife, which is probably good because if it were smaller, this would be poking down into my pinky probably. And again, deep ride, tip down, carry only. It is open assisted. The centering's okay. So it's just a cheapo rainbowy knife. Yeah, thanks, Elite Edge. I really wish I got Frost Cutlery stuff, you know? This one's a combination of what looks like fake wood and plastic. And so basically it's all plastic, but textured. The wood grain part is raised. It looks like it's supposed to be dripping, maybe. And then there's a golden scorpion. Yeah. Okay. And it is also open assisted. Got a drop point blade, and there's not much else to say about this. I'm going to just move on after these. So this says one of those, I'm sure there's a word for it. The smiley face you see on planes and stuff, bombs and whatnot, and now Elite Edge knives. That pocket clip looks awful. It's probably okay. No, you know what? I'll never get that into my pocket. Look at the ramp right there. It's just way too low. As I say, it might actually perform okay if it weren't for that. So, also open assisted. Kind of a large handle. Almost looks Strider-like. And no jimping. I feel like the other knives had excessive jimping, and this just has none. But the texture on the scales is that like classic 1911 grip knurling, which works really well, and I like. And for some reason, it's different colors, and they only have the artwork on one side. That's pretty common, though. It's a thick boy. Look how wide those scales are. No play. We got some fake-looking bullet holes. I feel like missed opportunity. They could have actually drilled holes and then had like the comic book-looking splatter. I don't know what you call those. I guess the metal ripping open from the bullet going through. But they don't. Okay. Yeah, starting off with kind of a disappointment. Ironically, these Whittlers were the best things in the set. I paid way too much money for all this. I want to say altogether it was like $70. Yeah, I'm glad it turned out the way it did. That would have been such a letdown. And then after the first video, I'd be like, well, I have to keep going. But who knows? Maybe one of these would have surprised me in some way. But I feel like I know knives enough now that I can anticipate when that just would not happen. Recently went on a little bit of a road trip. Actually, it was a long road trip. And a short one at the same time. Hard to explain. Anyway, we were on the return drive, and I realized at some point, I haven't bought any pocket knives on this trip. I was getting gas at a Love's, and I saw this. This is one of those, like, they've got a million of them on the rotating racks thing. You can get a knife with a letter, your initials, or whatever, and comes in a cheap aluminum box. And I was like, they have a letter J, just one left. It seemed like the right thing to do. Paid entirely too much money for it. I don't know if the price tag is still on here, but it was, oh God, I want to say it was like $20, which I knew was too much for what it is. I know what this knife is. It's a cheap, shitty knife. But it was something that I picked up on a road trip, and that's something I have to do every time. It is heavy. The bolsters are big and shiny and got that scroll work. I don't know how much I trust any of the pins now that I've seen how cheaply that can go. And frankly, I don't know what these two pins are doing because there's nothing going on down there. So these two are probably fake pins, but this one's real. That's the pivot. The scroll working is pretty cheap too. I mean, of course, that's just cast into the metal. And then they rub some black stuff into it. And it's ostensibly kind of a buck 112 look. And it has just a horrendous amount of blade play. Like, you can rattle it with the blade play. And it has back and forth blade play. Matter of fact, I don't know how much I trust the lock. Which is a shame, because people buy these things not knowing any better. And, I've seen stuff like this come through in the TSA auction things on eBay. It would be nice if they just made these better, I understand there are no incentives to, but yeah, disappointing. But still, a road trip knife, which is a category that I organize my knives by. And I will keep it in its packaging. Well, now we're going to get into a little bit more interesting territory. Let's get these out of the way. Make some space. Back when this knife was first really huge, the budget knife that everybody was ranting and raving about, and you must get one. It's the QSP Penguin. I did not get this when it was at when the fervor was at its peak, but rather I waited until some kind of a sale came up. This particular model is carbon fiber scaled with satin hardware. I've actually never owned a knife with carbon fiber scales like this before. Carbon fiber certainly makes a nice accent inlay sort of things that you've seen in like various Kershaws and stuff. But to have just a full-on carbon fiber scale, not had that before. It's surprisingly, I don't know a good word for it. It's not slick. It feels like it should be slick, but it resists motion, but in almost like a supplely, like a velvety, sticky way. Hard to describe, but that real carbon fiber also has that nice shimmery effect when light passes over it that the printed on stuff lacks. And I absolutely loved carrying this knife. I got it in a very generous sale on, I think, Amazon. And I want to say I paid very little for it. It was like $18 or something like that. I'm like, I can't pass that up. I should have a QSP Penguin because everybody else does, and they say how great it is. And they're not wrong. This is a fantastic knife. The action's great. The blade shape is cool. This one is made from D2 steel, and I do have some light spotting going on there. Which is why, part of the reason I'm not such a huge fan of D2 anymore. Because it's the corrosion resistance that it lacks, But anyway, pocket clip is fantastic. It's deep ride, and it's the kind that kind of slips in between the scale and the liner, and it's reversible. And I remember the pocket clip just performing excellently. Slips in and out like a dream. This is a very good knife, well worth the hype. So I carried it for, I want to say, about 6 months before I finally got fed up with it and put it down, and I got to move on to something else. So that's quite a long time for my pocket, though. The QSP Penguin. And now for this knife. Let me allow me to explain. A long, long time ago, what kind of got me into knife collecting in the first place was I stumbled upon videos on YouTube of people opening mystery boxes, and they would get them from Bud K for not a lot of money. So I started to do it, and then I started to film it. And this was my very first open-assisted knife, which I was jazzed about it when I first got it. The knife just opens on its own by a flick. It's so cool. What I didn't like about it was the way it looked. The blade was covered in biohazard symbols, and it had sort of it had jimping. And I didn't like either one of those. You can still see by the thumb stud a little bit of a biohazard symbol there. So I took some inspiration from various people on YouTube, and I'm like, I can modify this knife and make it my own. It also has G10 scales with a kind of a strange cutout texture thing going on with what looks like some bloom going on. You know, it's weird. So I took it apart, and I got a Dremel, and I basically like resurfaced it. And as I was going, I was like, I'm not going to be careful. This is going to be rough. And then by the end of it, I actually kind of liked that look. It's almost like a hammered, rough look. And I also didn't like the serrations, so I cut them out and gave it a little bit of a recurve. And then I just never really properly sharpened it. Put it in a drawer and walked away from it. And then I spotted it recently. I'm like, oh yeah, that knife. It's like I'm ashamed of it, but it's also kind of cool at the same time just because of the story. And of course, when I put it back together, I didn't quite do a good job, so it doesn't lock very well. There's lots of play in all directions. But this knife it was never going to be good. I want to say it was like Black Legion or one of those Bud K brand knives. But now it's definitely personalized. JJJinks' first open assisted knife. Now here's one that you have seen before. Some years back, I went on a shopping spree for Kaiser cutlery knives because like they had a sale and it was like buy 3 knives for the price of 2 or something like that. It was like you buy 2 or 3 knives in a row or in one go, and you get some kind of a good discount. And so I bought Kaiser knives like on a few occasions like that, only to realize, hang on, they keep on having these sales. I think this is like their normal price. They're just hyping it, which is brilliant marketing. But I'm on the subreddit knife deals, and I feel like every couple of months something from Kaiser pops up and like, oh yeah, they're doing the thing again, which is great. It just means if you want to buy something from Kaiser, just wait till they have one of those specials and go to it. So I actually carried this one along with a few others, and this one was interesting because I thought I would hate it, but I actually really liked it. It is the Domin? Yes, the Azo designed Kaiser Domin. And one of the things, there were 2 things about this knife I did not like. I was like, if they could just improve 2 little things. One, the pocket clip, fucking terrible. I could barely get that thing into my pocket, and it sucks. It's terrible. Said if I really wanted to keep carrying this knife, I would change that pocket clip. Also, it's a bit big, which does give it a lot of charm, but I just kind of wish it was maybe a 3-inch or sub 3-inch blade length. And so the follow-up to that was I actually did get the mini Domin, and I carried and used it, and I was going to do this whole video comparing the big brother to the little brother, and that just never happened. But this is probably one of the most perfect Kaiser knives I've ever carried. I was absolutely correct. They have a different pocket clip on the mini. It's fully recessed, meaning the back plate as well as the screws. It's got the classic like swoop down and back out pocket clip that works so well, just in and out of the pocket just fine, and it's tight. And one of the differences is that instead of the micarta, it's a 2-toned G10, and I decided to go with the black and white because it was just kind of different. And the white started as like a very, very matte, very, very consistent white, and over time some dirt and JJJinks grease got in there, and you can kind of see these striations for showing the different layers of the G10 coming in through, almost like a wood grain pattern. And I thought that was actually kind of neat. It's dirty, but it doesn't look terrible, you know. The pocket clip is reversible and it's tip up. The action is brilliantly smooth, and It doesn't have a flipper tab. Well, neither does the big one, which I do kind of like, but it just doesn't need one. That thumb stud works so well. N690 steel. What did the other one? Same steel. So it's got that N690 that Kaiser loves to use so much with. My experience with it is great. Has been very good. And I love the finish on it. It's kind of a, not quite a black wash. Sorry, stone washed black. It's, I don't know what that's called. They put a coating on it, and I like the look of it quite a lot. So this was the knife to bring up that I've never talked about before, the Mini Domin. I dig it. All right, I'm just gonna get the whole bin and go through these a little bit quicker. Here's another interesting one, a blast from the past. In digging up historical JJJinks knives like this one, I also dug up this one. What makes this knife dig-upable, you ask? Well, it is a gas station knife. I bought it from a Love's in Florida back before I even knew I was into knives. I was randomly on my way to visit somebody, stopped at a gas station. These were in a bin up at the register for like $7 or something, and I just bought it. And what I didn't realize at the time was I had just purchased probably one of the best quality truck stop knives they make. Or at least I thought at the time. I've seen so many terrible gas station knives that I'm like, you know what? That first one I got wasn't that bad. A couple of interesting things about it is that there are speed holes that go all the way through the scale and the liner that match up with the curvature of the blade. You see how the blade kind of follows those holes? That's a pretty neat design choice for something from a gas station. I just wish they had continued and put the holes on both sides so that you could kind of see it all the way through. And then you could almost like poke something through the hole and almost like cigar cutter style. It doesn't have a spidey hole. It has a spidey oval. It is flickable. There's no blade play, and it's got a choil for your finger to choke up with, which is also a design consideration that, you know, way back in 2012 or whenever I bought this was, that was a feature I didn't know to appreciate. You know what I mean? Cheap steel, cheap black coating, cheap grind. The lockup is horrendous. That liner lock just goes all the way over. But I have taken this knife apart and cleaned it in the past, and I probably just didn't do a good job of putting it back together again. So this is one of the very first gas station knives purchased by JJJinks many years before I even started making videos. Here's a knife I may or may not have talked about on my channel. Probably have, and I just forgot. But I was like, meh, I want to talk about it a little more, just in case I didn't. It's the SRM 9211 orange scales. It is a trailing point bladed knife with an axis lock. This was back when getting a non-benchmade knife with an axis lock was a bigger deal than it is now, because you can get that from Walmart or even gas stations, as I recently learned. But this is a pretty darn swell knife. You can get it in a lot of different colors. The pocket clip works fantastically, fully recessed, which I like. And it is a bit awkward to get it open just because it's got one of them thumb discs, which I'm not really sure how I feel about them. You can see how I struggle to get it open sometimes. But the action is pretty smooth. And it's got the axis lock, which, oh, that's a big deal back then. Lots of weight reduction. You can see holes cut out in there. Very happy with this knife. It cuts super well. Not a lot of trailing point knives in my collection. So that's also one of the things that makes it kind of interesting and unique. And as well as the nice curvature to the whole shebang. Not very expensive. I don't remember what I paid for it. It was a long time ago. The SRM Sanrenmu 9211. All right. Oh, I might as well talk about this one. A couple of road trips ago, I had purchased a bunch of case knives from Tractor Supply Company for just a killing. I mean, I wonder if it was a mistake. I want to say I got a couple of these mini trappers by case for like $15 or less. And then a couple of other knives as well. In total, I paid, I don't even remember, it was like $40 or something. And I got 4 case knives out of it. And then I went through the whole thing about how I don't like full-size trappers. But let me try the mini. And I got to tell you, these are great. I've put so much thought into an explanation, and the only thing I can think of is it's literally just because it's smaller that I like it so much better. The handle's more comfortable somehow. It's a case knife with a half stop, which I do like. It has developed play a little bit more than what I like. This knife stayed in my pocket for like 6 months. I ended up really, really liking it. And I was really happy when I found it, because the last time I brought this knife up, I couldn't show it to you because I thought I had lost it. I stayed at a buddy's house in another state, and I shot him a text and I was like, by the way, if you find a little pocket knife, just keep it, it's yours. Only to find that I actually had just packed it and brought it with me. It's sitting on my dresser for like 3 weeks in a little pouch. I just completely forgot about it. And I was so happy when I saw it again. I'm like, wait, why do I feel so happy to see this again? I was reasonably sure I wouldn't like it. It's got weird scale patterns. It almost looks like something decaying. And I don't like trappers, but I just couldn't get it out of my pocket. This thing is fantastic. I love mini trappers so much that I got another one. So this one popped up for sale. I think I paid $18 for it. Ironically, more than what I did for the case knife. And this one is made by Cold Steel. I didn't know Cold Steel was into the mini trapper game, but sure enough, they are. And these happen to be 8CR13 MOV, yellow bone, a little bit on the ugly side in my opinion, a little plain. I would have liked to see a little jigging. It's mostly the same knife, minus the half stop, which took me a while to get used to, but you know what, maybe just, again, because it's small, it works really well for me. This knife was also fantastic and fun to carry and use. I almost never use the spay blades on these things. Speaking of that, I wanted to bust out this knife. This is a case knife, even though the shield fell out. They just put a little bit of glue in there and slap it in, and didn't work for this one. It is a copper something, not a copper lock, copper head, I want to say. It's also got half stops. Reason why I kind of dug this out, I actually got it in one of the Smoky Mountain Knife Works mystery boxes back in the day, and I just never really used it. And I was thinking about the conundrum I have with the whole trapper thing, and I remember this one, I felt much the same. I was like, I would love it if it just didn't have that second blade getting in the way of the hand feel. And they do make them like that. It's called the copper lock. So I dug it out to kind of fiddle with it, handle it for a bit. See, maybe I would like a copper lock knife. This is almost that. And they also make them mini. So that might be my next case purchase if I stumble upon one or there's a major sale, is a mini copper lock. That's why this one I took out, and I love the color on this one. This is the kind of coloration I would have liked to have seen on the Hen and Rooster knives. When you put these side by side, the Hen and Rooster knife just looks burnt. And look what just happened over here. The scale just fell off. Well, now we can get to the bottom of that whole pin thing. I'm so glad that happened on camera. That is crazy. Yeah, there's just glue in there, and I don't think any of these pins are real. I mean, I think they pinned what they needed to pin in the liners, and then they literally just glue this on top of it. Is this thing even bone? I don't know. I'm not an expert. Obviously, this can never be fixed. That is so funny. Like I said, I'm so glad I caught that on camera. Wow. Now we know. Cheap shit. I don't expect that to be the case with Case, but interesting. Speaking of a cheap little knife that's not Case, check out this watermelon looking thing. I think these are called Peanut, that sort of style. What makes this one kind of interesting is back when buying knives from Wish.com was a popular thing, like, I bought 10 knives from Wish.com, let me unbox them for you, and that's all you had to do. This one's actually really good quality. It's up there with Case. Look at the polish. And the scales are nicely jigged, nicely colored. I really like this knife. And I literally got it for $1. There's no play. All that's missing is the Case logo. You know what I mean? Or perhaps like a solid Rough Rider quality. And it was $1. And that's all there is to say about it. Didn't warrant a video of its own. It almost looks like an alligator pattern. This knife I picked up earlier this year, and it was one of the biggest disappointments. The CJRB Scarab, which I picked up for a couple reasons. Number one, I actually like scarabs. I've always been fascinated by Egyptian history, and I know scarabs are closely associated with Egypt stuff. So the name drew me in. Also, it's got a very geometric look that I appreciate, with like the square patterning and the G10 scales. It's a button-locked knife, which I don't own too many of. And it has a spear point blade, which I also don't have very many of. It's rocking the thumb disc, and the action is very good. To the point where it's too good. You know, like I can't quite time it. There we go. I know I would be able to get that down given more practice, which I did not have, because when I carried it and used it at work, it just, the edge just got mangled. There was immediately like a roll, and you can see some of the, look at all that damage, you know. And I was just like, this steel is crap. I think it's AOS 8. I can't remember, but I think the heat treatment didn't go so well, and that's why. Now, I could have gone and gotten a refund, but I paid so little for it. Again, I waited for it to have some kind of a markdown sale, but I still paid more than... I'm disappointed. I think I want to say I paid like $25 for it or something like that. I do own a few pieces by CJRB, and I do love their work, but this was a disappointment. Here's a knife I have been wanting for a very long time, ever since it came out. It's the Spyderco Roadie. What makes this knife interesting and unique, and it's a few things. This knife was literally kind of born out of the California knife laws, where, you know, they have restrictions on like the type of knife you can carry, size and all that. And so Spyderco made a knife that was just tailored to California. And I think this is also the knife that they I could be wrong about this, but I think for a hot minute the TSA was going to relax rules about carrying knives on planes, so long as it met certain parameters. And I want to say this was also designed to meet those parameters, but that legislation ended up not going through. So it's a slip jointed knife with a half stop and a very good detent. Like, it's a slip joint knife that almost feels like it's liner locked, you know. It's Spyderco branded knife, so the quality's pretty darn good. This one was made in Magnaggio, Italy. Magnaggio, home of MKM. They do give you a little performative Spidey hole, and also a little depression to aid in opening it up, which it doesn't really need because of how far it sticks out. Neat little knife, but super expensive. When these first came out, they were going for, I don't know, like $80 or something. I just can't justify that much money for this little knife until I saw it on sale from, I want to say, Deadwood Knives a couple years ago, and I got this for $20. At that price point, I had to jump. Perfect for the 5th pocket. There's no pocket clips, so, you know, slip it in the 5th and you're good. And I used it for only maybe a month, and I don't know why I put it down. I think maybe I had other knives to rotate through, and this one just took a little bit of a back seat, but I'm thinking about getting back into it now. I wish I could have gotten it in JJJinks orange, because I think that is a color they make it in, but for the $20 model, it had the OD green, which is fine. All right, just going to do a little more, and we'll call it for the year. This is a knife that I'm pretty sure I have talked about on my channel. It's just been a long time, and I don't know if I ever followed up. It's the Harnd's Time knife. Time is the answer. I always remember that scene from the cartoon Hobbit movie. This knife is really, really interesting and weird. Look at it. You have this thumbprint looking scale pattern in 1970s caramel brown. Very, very well polished, and it's got Sandvik steel. It's got a deep ride pocket clip tip up that's it does go like into the scale, in between the scale, not in between the scale and the liner, just into the scale. And it is, I don't think it's reversible, but the bolts holding the pocket clip into place go into these weird spirally things that are down here for some reason. I like them though. I don't know why they're there, and they have them for the pivot as well. And there's the Harnd's logo right there in the pivot. I bought this very much on a whim, and it was not expensive at all. Just a good sale. Didn't know what to expect. Check out the spacer with the matching kind of caramel color. And it is comfortable. It is a bit crookedy looking, but it is very comfortable. Ooh, it's developing a little bit of play. Not left and right, but back and forth. That's a shame. I wonder what that's about. So I carried and used this for a good 6 months or so, and then put it down and moved on. But it was a good experience. I'm going to look into other models by this brand, because I had kind of heard of them, but never really looked into it before. And this was just a very surprising looking knife that ended up being pretty cool. And now it has blade play, and I'm sad. So here's a knife that was popular for a hot minute. Remember kind of around this time of year, a few years ago, when Swiss Tech just came out of nowhere and blasted into the budget knife space. I don't remember what this model is called, but this was like the one, I guess you could say the original Swiss Tech knife that just made it real big. Everyone wanted one. I think it was like $30 from Walmart. And so I even bought into the hype. And then Swiss Tech marketing, top notch. After this thing exploded in popularity, they immediately got to work trying to keep that lightning in a bottle going. And they came out with serialized versions that very year, or maybe the year after, pretty quickly. And different models, as far as I know, they are still doing that. The pocket clip looks pathetic, but it actually works extremely well. It's got just enough lift down there at the bottom that it slips right into your pocket. The screws are recessed, but the back plate is not. But it is reversible, and you got the red accent anodization along with the very foresty green micarta, the thumb disc and flipper. It's smooth as hell, like drop shut, you know. This one, I think the centering is good. I was going to say, I thought I remembered it going off a little bit, but I was wrong. And I just never got around to talking about it again. Probably because everybody else was talking about it for so long, I didn't want to kind of feed into a space that was already so overly saturated with my own opinions, basically just saying what everybody else is saying. But there are a couple of interesting things about this knife that I've discovered that I don't think anybody else has talked about. And it is in the fit and finish, and I have some theories. I always get curious when you spot fit and finish things. And you're like, how much of that is on purpose? You know? All right, you ready for me to blow your mind? Get ready. It starts up here. If you look very closely at the edge of the liners, you'll see the liner on your left has a bit of a shininess to it. See that? And if I try to reflect the light just the same with the other one, it's dull. It's matte. One of these liners on the end is finished matte, and the other one's kind of polished a little bit. Now, this one on your left, the matted one, if I go to the other side, it's the opposite. Now that one's shiny, and the other one's matted. I don't know why, but that's just something I've noticed. Well, anyway, so that's the Swiss Tech Christmas knife that took the budget knife world by storm, and deservedly so. All right, just got a couple more. Thought I would bring up this knife. This is an old imperial jackknife. So it's got a clip point blade and a pen blade, and it's put together with these cheap kind of stamped metal scales made to look like wood, I suppose. It's got a shield and not a whole lot else. That's just about it. But there are a couple of things about this knife that make it really peculiar and interesting. You could tell I'm drawn to that kind of stuff, right? First of all, it is not stamped Imperial. It is stamped USA. That helps to date this thing, because Imperial changed the way they do things here and there, and that's been documented. So this knife was made in sometime in the late 60s to the mid 70s, and these are basically just gas station knives of the time. These would have been sold in like a bait and tackle shop for like 25 cents. They're intended to be used, broken, thrown away, and bought again. The whole thing is cheap as hell, but very well preserved, and for reasons I will reveal soon, I bought a shitload of them. 5 to be exact, and they are all identical. Where did I get them and why did I get them? Well, that's what makes this interesting. So, every once in a while, I go on eBay, and I will try to find interesting and unique things. And sometimes you just have to do different keyword searches. And one of the categories I look through are like estate sale knives, basically situations where somebody might not actually know what they've got. They're just like, oh, that looks cool, I'm going to sell it. And that's literally what the listing said. Like, I found a box of these cool knives. It wasn't it was kind of an estate sale. Basically, the story goes that like somebody's girlfriend's uncle's cousin passed away. I know it already sounds too fantastic. And they worked for a factory making these way back in the day, as a machinist working on the lines. I know all this because I asked the seller and got some more details. And there's a little bit of conjecture, but bear with me. These are, I don't know if there's a word for them, blanks, I guess. Basically, when you retool your machinery to mass produce something, you got to get the timing right. You got to like fiddle with the gears a little bit. And meanwhile, you're making product, and you're just trying to figure out, like, is the compression setting the rivets at the right pressure, stuff like that. And then the blanks that come out, they just put them in a box and toss them or recycle them or whatever. Or in this case, they would say, hey, you want to take it home? We're just going to throw them away. And so the person like just grabbed a handful of these and put them in a little box in their attic. And that's where it remained until I bought them. So these are unfinished blanks. They're not sharp at all. So this is, why bother going on to do those things, And that's it. That's what makes it interesting, was that these were never intended for circulation. These were just they were retooling. They were setting up the line to do a campaign, a production run, and some of them made it out, and now they're mine. And that's it. That's a neat thing. And then there's this knife, Frontier, it says on the shield, and Imperial Ireland, it says on the blade. There's not much to say about this. It's a little Stockman knife from a long, long time ago. I don't remember. I looked it up. It was like, I don't know, 70s or something. The Frontier emblazoned Imperial knives had a... you can find out when these were made. I spotted this at a flea market, and the price tag on it was like $30. And I'm like, it's actually in really nice condition. There's good patina. There is some pitting, indicating that someone likely cleaned up the blades at some point. No play anywhere, and sharp as hell. I think this was basically just... maybe somebody bought two of these to preserve one, and this is the preserved one, you know what I mean? And I was looking at it, and the guy was like, I see you looking at that knife. And I'm like, yeah, I'm also looking at that price tag. And then he was like, I'll give it to you for $12. Deal. And I got it. That's all. Just a neat, this is a well-made old folding knife. Not sure what the scale material is. Probably Bakelite or some kind of plastic, obviously, with that saw cut look. That was all the rage back then. One of the interesting things, if you look at the scale all the way down at the end here, is that there's a very uneven kind of finish to it, looking like down by the liner. See how it gets a bit wavy. So I don't know how much of this is like hand formed. Maybe after they slap it all together, they got to do a quick neat, even it out a little bit. Really neat little Stockman to add to my Stockman collection. And finally, I thought I would leave you with a recent... No, I have a couple more. Hold on. This is a knife that I think I know what this is. I bought from wish.com. Yeah, okay. So this knife has a little bit of a story, but it's not a good one, which is why you've never seen it before. I bought this for like $2 or $3 because I thought that it was a counterfeit or a copy or a knockoff Izula by Essie. And then I didn't look too hard. I was like, $2 in my cart on the way. I will do a real versus knockoff Izula video, you know what I mean? And then I got it, I'm like, oh, that looks nothing like an Izula. So it's a no-name Chinese gas station special neck knife that is not anything resembling... why am I having trouble with that? No, I guess there's a directionality to it that I thought might have resembled something by Essie, but not really. And so that's all the screen time that one's getting. And finally, I will leave you with a recent acquisition, another Kaiser knife. One that I've been eyeing for quite a while. It's the Drop Bear. You got your axis lock, spear point style blade, thumb studs, no flipper, but that's okay because it's Kaiser. It opens great. Deep ride pocket clip and the usual Kaiser style. No skeletonization though. And the transparent scales are patterned. They got like stripes. And there's a skeleton underneath. And you can see the Omega springs inside. I thought that was kind of neat. You can see the way they bend, and if they break, then you'll be able to see that too. And this is another one of those budget knives that kind of took the world by storm. And I just never got one because they were just a little bit out of pricey to me. I want to say I've seen them for like over $100 for some models. And then after Halloween came and went, this one was marked down to $30. I couldn't say no. So I have been using and carrying the skeletal drop bear. I can't think of anything that sticks out more than what anybody else has said about this knife. I'm still not sure if I'm a fan of the spear point style blade. I think I'm more of a clip point guy myself. So for that reason, I might drop it from my rotation for a while and just say, well, now I have a drop bear. A couple of last minute additions. I have so many of these. This is another knife made by Swiss Tech more recently that I picked up for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was also on sale from Walmart. And it's called the Balkan. And it comes with, remember this fad? The, you know what, now I can't remember the name of it. The piss-colored scales. Gosh, I really forgot what that's called. It's basically, it is a thermoplastic that is engineered to lots of cool specifications and everything. But at the end of the day, it's just another plastic. It's smooth. You can pattern it, put some texture to it if you want. I don't think that fad is going away, but I'm also like, I got it and then I was like, okay, it's a piss-colored plastic. But anyway, this is a fantastic knife. So here's Swiss Tech jumping on board with a fad and rushing it out. I mean, they're doing such a great job marketing. You gotta respect that. This knife made me change my mind a little bit about D2 steel. I realized there was another knife in here, the Penguin, that had D2 steel. I'm like, not enthused. This steel is fantastic. I think the heat treatment must have just gone better with the Balkan. I do like how you can see all the skeletonization. You can see the Omega springs. The Omega spring lock actuator is a little different. Instead of like the stud style, it's like a elongated piece, but that bit is what sticks out the most up on this knife, and so it does take the wear first, and you can see it is starting to get wear there, which I don't mind. I kind of like that look. And a couple of other neat things about this design. Fantastic pocket clip. Look at that pocket clip. It's just, that's all you got to do. Just the swoop down, nice and tight. Give me that ramp for the denim. Fully recessed, this pocket clip, and fully recessed scales. Already, I like it. It's blocky. It's geometrically simple, I suppose. And the action is fantastic. It just drops right shut, you know? And that's what I like to see in a knife like this. Another neat thing is the name of the knife. It is always displayed. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to close the knife, but I'm going to kind of not move the blade. Watch what happens to the name of the knife. Bam. You will never forget the name because it's always there. Perfectly centered in this little groove. I really like that design choice. And same thing with the type of steel on the other side. I just think that's so cool. I remember being very impressed with the packaging too. So I kept it. And here it is. It's got the magnetic box, and then you pull the thing out, and it's the Swiss Tech packaging. That's another thing they do a great job with. Any knife where I'm like, I'm not going to throw that away. That means the packaging is good, you know. But now that I've shown it, I guess I don't really need it anymore. This is probably the third time I said I was going to end this video, but I got one more for you. Another San Renmu knife in one of their old style packages, the clamshell cardboard slip style with the courier font on the back. This is the model 7063, and it is this knife. It's a San Renmu knife with an axis lock, which is not a unique feature. I mean, I've got one right here. It was just really, really cheap, less than $10, and I figured, why not? I'm into little knives, it turns out. This is a good size for me, and it's all right. It's anodized aluminum scales, kind of a unique color, vaguely some kind of coppery something, but the action's not that great. It doesn't have that satisfying drop shut smooth action. It could probably break in, or I can buy 3 more and one of them will have that. Also, the blade is extremely gunked up. I've never actually carried and used this knife. I just bought it, fidgeted for a little bit and put it down, but it looks like I've used it to open boxes or something. It came this way, which is really, really weird. I mean, it looks like I've used it quite a lot and got lots of gunk on it, but factory goo, I don't know. And so that's the model 7063. Well, gosh, it would be really hard for me to look at all of these and pick out which one's my favorite of this group. I want to say it's got to be probably this one, the Mini Domine. If I had to go to a desert island with one of these knives, it would probably be this one. Biggest disappointment was pretty much everything I got from Cutlery Corner. All those things I've heard about Hen and Rooster being kind of their better quality lineup, maybe if it was 30 years ago, you know what I mean? But I'm so happy that happened on camera. So that's your big pile o' knives talked about by JJJinks. And I forgot this one. So there's another bonus knife. One of the budget brand OTF knives, the Lightning OTF, a couple of years ago put out these mini versions, and I bought 2 of them for some reason because I was like, I'm really going to use the mini one. That's cool. They were super cheap. I want to say I paid like $12 each. So I'm like, why not get 2? And then I can use the hell out of one of them and keep the other one for preservation. And that's all it is. It's just a cut down Lightning OTF, kind of a mini, well, kind of. It is a mini version. I've not used it and carried it. Maybe I should. Maybe I shall. All right. That's it for real this time.